Looks like we're in for some big changes here in the Hamilton waterfront. They excavated all this stuff out over the fall. It just turned to getting cold here, 1 degree. So there's the waterfront in behind me, and the Discovery Center going to come up to. So those have been there before, but you couldn't get out here. This was all a huge building and warehousing and kind of like waterfront industry, and they're turning it into a more residential pedestrian area. So they're going to have some businesses and whatnot. It's an interesting piece of history. I'll zoom in, but that's the HMS Haida. And we've got a nice sunset here. And that's the marina. You can see some boats over there. There's a few boats that have done winter over. I see 3 planes in the sky. Some birds are out. And I just got news that my launch is in 6 weeks. So just down at the marina front, everything's still frozen over. You can actually bring a pretty deep boat in here. This rock channel goes down pretty steep. So as long as you're about 5-10 feet away from shore, you can make it through with a 40-50 foot hull. No problems. They've done a whole pile of construction, it looks like, over there. They tore down the building from last year. And I heard they're moving the fuel dock somewhere. It's going to be floating fuel dock or something. Anyways, that's the sunset. As I mentioned, my launch is in 6 weeks. It's amazing. You think all this stuff is going to be able to take me in 6 weeks, eh? This is the first view. It was here in Hamilton, Steel Town. They make a lot of steel, and there's a lot of soot. And you can see here, that's actually soot, but it got so thick here on the some parts where the water collected. It's almost like an oil or something. Like, I hope I can really clean that off. Well, I think so. I don't think it'll stain. I just got to get at it there. But that's just disgusting. Winter in Hamilton. So, what I'm doing here, I'm just got my inverter on, and it wouldn't let me run it until I had updated it, so I'm going to check it here again. And it says I've got 55.85 volts. This is actually the Phoenix inverter. I hadn't been able to actually show that screen here yet, but basically it's pretty simple. It just tells you the load, and it tells you on this top part if you're kind of going out of control or not. The shop vac, and last year I did a test. It pretty much draws about 7.8 amps. And 1200 watts at 48 volts is pretty close to 8 amps. So my shop vac maxes out my system here. So we'll see how it does. Take care, Roy. Yeah. So then when I'm going to turn on the shop vac here, I'm expecting this thing here to pretty much max out. Turn the power on. So that's my shop vac. So you can see the load goes up pretty high there. So I haven't been able to test my batteries yet with a specific gravity, so I don't know the actual condition of the batteries, but they're showing 54 volts. My solar's been working fine all winter. It's been giving it a charge every day, and even right now it's charging up. I've got 0.6, 0.7 current in here. When you look at the history, you can see that every day it's pretty much, it's not really working hard. When there's white, that's actually a true charge, so the bulk of the day is like a trickle charge into it. So I didn't really do much charging. Here there was oh, was that the first time I was on the boat? Might have been. I ran the lights for a little bit. And then the other thing that's interesting is in the battery monitor. Here, the other one just shows high and how much drain there is, but this is actually, here gives you the power consumption. So I've just got a few lights on in here right now, and there's a little fan on the Nature's Head, whatever that's called, toilet, the head, Nature's Head, composting toilet. So that little fan and the lights in here are drawing 39 watts, and so I have, you can see that the voltage is actually going up. That's because there's more solar energy right now than I'm able to draw. But as soon as I put this inverter back on and start sucking up some of this water from the bilge, that's going to, you'll see the wattage here. It's important to note the significance of the draw, and you can see here it's actually started in at 1,000 watts and then it's slowly lowering itself down. That's the initial kick required to kick the motor over. So my inverter is for 1,200 watts, so it's got enough to be able to handle that. The other thing that's important to note is the current is right now showing 16 amps draw. That 16 amps is lower than the battery rated output power. So if I want to have nominally less than 25 amps. So I am, so that means it's good, in good shape. So we drew about a kilowatt there, eh? That's what it looked like, 1,000 watts. So I chipped off some of that. You can see that, how thick that is. So that's the depth of my hand. I sucked all the water out. So basically they're around the hull, it's melting. You know, it's very solid here in the middle. So I'm going to have to wait a little bit more to see, have a little bit more of that melt. Interesting little stat here. So this shop vac is 2.5 horsepower, and this 2.5 horsepower, and it's 5 gallons. So just to so you can see here with the battery, so I consumed 2 amp hours, and I did about 10 buckets, so of a half. So right now I took about 10 buckets, and each bucket is about 2.5 gallons because the water level, there's like a blow off or a stop valve, a float valve if you have too much water, so you don't damage the motor. So it only lets you take about half of water. So I'd say, like I said, 2.5. So, and I took at least 10 out. So I took 25 gallons of water out. In my bilge here underneath the boat, I had about 25 25 gallons of water. And then from a consumable, it's telling me that I've only used 2 amp hours of the battery. And right now it's charging again, so it's going back up, and I'm still at 99%. And I'd say that took about 20 minutes of running the vacuum on and off there. So lots of power. Seems like my batteries are working pretty good. I think they've survived the winter. One thing about batteries is that if you keep them charged, they won't freeze. But if you let them, if the charge goes down, then they're something like the acid turns more into water. It's not as acidic. So and then it freezes. You can crack your batteries. But I'd say that didn't happen because it looks like they're working pretty damn good. So I'm going to turn off the inverter, and that's the Phoenix 48/1200 inverter, the Victron energy inverter that I installed last year. So happy about that. It looks like it's working very well. And I'm going to get prepared for my project list. So I'm just going to clean up a little bit more, get this tarp set up here so that way water's not just dripping in here through these windows. I'm just going to take a quick walk here so you can see what how she looks. So the cover I've just taken off. So you can see here, this is all that soot that comes off of the steel mill. You can see the steel mill in the distance. That's US Steel and Acer Mittler. I think Acer Mittler is over there. So anyways, this soot here is actually as a result of all that crap coming out of those all of those silos you can see in the distance. So a lot of good boats in here. A couple people already taken some of their things off. Looks like this guy ahead of me doesn't cover up his boat because he hasn't been back actually. He just puts a little tarp over the boom. He leaves his mast up, but I prefer to take my mast down. Not too sure why, but there's just less clutter for the winter, I suppose. And I don't have a proper covering, so I've still got a few repairs to do. I can see I've got to put my last coat of paint on after I clean it. But this thing here, I just remembered the bolt broke. It looks like it was been like that for a while, so I need to drill that out and then put an insert for some threads for a 1/4 inch thread. So it's a little project here I'm going to have to do up front. And then I wanted to clean these bars again a little bit more. And it just looks dirty right now, but it's actually not too bad. Over here I've got 2 blocks on that side. So those were I was using for my main halyard and my Genoa halyard. And they basically will run through the blocks back into the Dodger area, into the cockpit. This side, I never actually put these 2 in here yet. So I need to run 2, what do you call it? I need to install 2 blocks there, roughly in the same orientation, so that I can do my out haul and my, actually my main sheet connects here on a pulley. And I think it's just to give it a little bit of flexibility back and forth. So I want to redo that a little bit. So I'm going to have to take a look at it, but I might have 3 here and then run 3 lines back. 1 for my main sheet. And then last year, these are kind of my pre-year starter projects. It's not smooth, so I'm either going to grease it, take it apart, grease it, change the bearings, that kind of thing. But the other thing is that you'll notice there's no lines on it. And for the life of me, when I bought the boat, I never noticed that. There was no traveler lines where I can secure the traveler in one spot. So basically by hauling on the main sheet, that's really where I've been controlling the traveler. So you just, when you loosen up on the main and you let the traveler go over, but that's not the way it's supposed to work. You want to set your main and then you want to move your traveler to to maintain your sail shape. So I need to install another single block on each side, a clutch, sorry. And then I'm going to run some kind of pulley system that'll go through that like a couple of times. So I'll have like maybe a little ring pulley here go to the other side and back to the middle, so that way I get like a 2-to-1 or a 4-to-1 pulley ratio, so I can have some power on the sail, and then basically a clutch on each side with the small traveler sheet to pull it back and forth, I guess, from each side. So if I want to let a little bit of it out, slack it, pull it in on the other side. So I'm basically just going to have a little rope that'll go across from the port side to the starboard side over there, and then through some pulleys and attach directly onto the traveler. And I don't know, it's like I said, this is pretty ancient, but I don't even know how they did that. So these are separate, actually. It's interesting. Like I said, it's worked fine. It's just once you get the tension pulling up on it, it does slide all right. And I cleaned this thing last year, so like it did move all right. We still got to do a little bit of finishing here and put some guides in still. So the plug for it is underneath right there. So you turn that off, and then I'm good. And these are my two. These here are my two land-based shore power chargers. So when I had a actually, so there's more back here, but this is my diesel heater, and then these, it's taking up a bit of space, but these two things here I used for battery conditioning. So I have them running into the two banks, and these are two banks, and so I have them skipping a battery. So basically they're doing 12-volt charging. My batteries are 6-volt, so I do them with two in series. And between the two of these, once I run my, when I'm on shore power, it doesn't take very long when I want to do a kind of like a complete recondition. They work pretty good. This Victron Energy MPPT 150/35 solar controller also does battery maintaining, so they work pretty good. So my my last piece, I think, is like getting these things talking to each other. So there's a central unit that you wire into each of these through the VE Direct. I can't remember the name of that device. I'll find it and then I'll post it here in the video. But then I'm going to take those out. Sorry, I'm going to take all those lines, connect them together, and then have them going into my Raymarine Axiom chart plotter and multi-function display, and I'll have kind of like a captain station viewable access to all of the Victron Energy without using my cell phone and the Bluetooth. So they have their own bus language that they talk on, and there's an app that goes on the Raymarine Axiom display. So I do want to get that going so that I can have kind of like a common view. What I intend is to have the Axiom 7 here on the outside at the helm station. So when I finish the heads up, or I don't know what those boxes are called, but the nautical display boxes, I plan on having that connected here with the Axiom product. So then I will be able to get my battery, all of those indicators right through the Axiom heads-up display right at the helm station. So that's kind of too cold to talk out there, and then I got chatting up with the neighbor. Anyways, I just wanted to close off with the shaft. I'm going to take the shaft right out, so I'm going to disconnect the pulley system that I have there in the inside, and then I'm going to have to slide the shaft out because I want to do the stuffing box and the the packing box. I don't know what some people call it different, but the rubber piece that goes around the dripless system. And then the other thing I want to do is have the cutlass bearing changed. So with the shaft, I don't think that it's ever been done in 15 years, that cutlass bearing. There is a slight play in it. It's not a lot, but if I'm going to take this out for a long voyage, I just want to have all that stuff to be new, and as well as the one that's on the rudder, because there's another stuffing box that is on the rudder. I'm just going to get it inspected to make sure that it's okay. Like, I think it's probably all right, but I just don't know if it's ever been changed. I've only had the boat now for 3 years, so I think just better safe than sorry. So anyways, that's the updates for today. Just a little bit of cleaning and getting oriented and making my project list. I'm glad to get the cover off just to take a look at it to see what I need to do, and it reminded me about the Traveler project. I'm going to have to go solve that. I'm not too sure what pulleys I want to use, that kind of thing. So I appreciate you watching these videos, appreciate you giving me any comments, subscribing to the channel, and thumbs up. Thanks, and have yourself a great day. So I was able to get these clamps off and then pry the back, so that's loose now.